How's it going, Blamers? Welcome to Blame It On Mel. Today's episode is not your typical love and marriage story. It's a story about control. It's a story about purity culture, a system that teaches little girls to ignore red flags and grown women to stay quiet. Jen has lived through 4 Mormon marriages with her script written by a church that values obedience over safety and reputation over truth. Welcome, Jen.
Hi. Thanks for having me, Mel.
So tell me a little bit about your background. Were you raised in the church?
Born and raised my entire life. My mom was a convert. So by the time I was born, we were loyal followers.
Loyal followers. And you said that you grew up in California. Is that right?
Yeah, I grew up in like the West Hollywood area. And we traveled here to Salt Lake City with a caravan of Spanish ward members and came out here to Zion.
So what is, if any, is there any differences between a Spanish branch or a Spanish ward?
I mean, other than the level of gossip, fashion shows, charisma, machismo, I mean, you name it. There's a lot of differences.
Okay. How about like the leadership?
The leadership is more oriented to whatever is convenient for them at the time. And they do combine convenience with culture all in one. And the Latino culture is very male dominated. Women are beneath man. So that comes into play a lot.
And that is really typical within the Mormon Church as well, but it's even more so is what you're saying within the Latino culture.
Yeah, Spanish wards, it's a double whammy.
Okay, so it just kind of takes that level of control that the men have over the women and it just escalates it to the next level.
Absolutely.
So anything that I've experienced is probably pretty mild compared to what you went through.
You know, it really just depends on the day, but I'm sure, I mean, there's a lot of stories out there from Spanish wards and what us women have had to go through.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just preface that you have been married for 4 times.
Yes.
Okay, and how old were you on your first marriage?
Well, my first marriage, I met my husband when I was 16 years old and he was 21. He was a Spanish-speaking missionary at my Spanish ward. So to reiterate, I was 16. He was 21 when the late night calls started to my home. When he ended his mission, about 2 days after he got home, he came back to Salt Lake, asked me to marry him. I'm 17 at this point. He's 22. And I got pregnant that weekend.
So what was your parents' view of this?
My mom at the time was okay with it because he's a good Mormon boy. He's a returned missionary. He fit the mold of her checklist of what she wanted for her daughter to be married to. And he was half Caucasian. So that's a whole other chapter in the Latino culture that if you marry into a white family, you're bettering the race. That is something that's not discussed a lot, but it is very instilled in us as little girls. So the fact that he was part Caucasian, served a mission and learned how to speak Spanish and he came back to me to marry me, ideal man. So age didn't matter. He fit the mold, what she needed.
So you hear about the missionaries that go to South America and they are almost always blonde-haired, blue-eyed white people.
They do that on purpose.
And so what you're saying, I mean, that makes sense. So how the Mormon Church, how they structure who goes where is all calculated.
Absolutely.
I had no
100%.
idea that was something that was desired. Why do you think that is? How does that, as you say, kind of increase your race? How does that view come from?
So the Latino people in whole. We come in every color. We can look like you, light skinned blonde hair if you're like
Mm-hmm.
from northern Mexico, or we can be dark skinned and have like the African background if you're Dominican. I mean, we range in every hue, right?
Right.
So it is absolutely calculated because they do send the blonde, blue eyed missionaries because the members just go, let's listen to him. Like that's real.
Right. Well, and then you hear so many stories also, especially from the male missionaries, that they go back. They go back to South America and they bring their bride back to America.
Oh, they are making themselves available to them. The women are to the male missionaries. Like they will text them, call them, send them letters, come back for me. Like if there was an actual statistic, I don't know. Here's my theory. 7 out of 10 American missionary boys that go to a Latino culture, they're coming back with a wife.
And you're not supposed to date on your mission. The Mormon Church doesn't allow that. So how did the missionary that you had met, how did he get around that?
Breaking the rules. Would call me at night every Friday night. That was our thing. He would wait for his companion to go to sleep. So around 10 p.m. is when the phone calls would start, and we would go till 1, 2, 3 in the morning,
Where was his companion?
snoring in the bed next to him.
And never woke up. He never got caught, never let on.
No.
How long did this courtship go on for?
He ended up at our ward for a solid year. He had different companions, maybe 2 in that time, but he specifically stayed at our ward for a full year. I got to meet him. My mom was one of those moms who always fed the missionaries. They were always at our house. I just at this point now was 16 and, looked more like a woman and appealing to young men. So we got to know each other. He was a fun guy. He was a, friend. And then one night he called, and this is when cell phones were first a thing. Okay, I'm old. I'm almost 40, guys. It's fine. But he called, and I had a cell phone at the time. So that's how I was able to get away with it as well. Not that I think my mom would care, to be honest.
Do you feel like she let on at all?
Oh, yeah. I think that was ultimately her goal. I have 2 older sisters, and they both had crushes on missionaries. That didn't work out. It fell through. They ended up marrying somebody else. But I know that was probably my mom's push. Not because she was a bad mother at all, but because it's almost instilled in them as well. We need to find them return missionaries and do it quick.
Well, and there's also this purity culture also is that the quicker that you get your daughter married, the less likely it is for your daughter to sin, right? Or to break any of that purity culture whatsoever.
Oh, absolutely. For instance, I still had my dad out in LA. So I was traveling back and forth, Salt Lake, LA, as a 6-year-old on the airplane all by myself. So I was able to live both experiences in LA and here in Salt Lake. Now, when I'm getting married now at 17 years old, all my friends out in LA, they're still in high school, because of that whole timeline and that push to get married so young. The average age of getting married out here in Utah is 18 years old. Like, that's a real thing. If you're 21 and not married, there's something wrong with you. You're an old maid. So I'm a grandma at 39 because the apple didn't fall far. My daughter got married at 18 as well and had a baby. So I became a grandma at 36, Mel. Like, that's wild. And my friends who are 39 right now, they're still having babies, but I'm raising grandbabies.
That all checks out, though. I remember being 21 and I was preparing to go on a mission because I hadn't gotten married yet. And that's when I met my husband. And I did. I felt like I was an old maid. I was probably the oldest out of my entire friend group to get married at 21, which absolutely seems crazy. But also, what is the push with this Mormon church allowing or accepting such an age difference as well. You are still a teenager, you're still a minor, and this missionary is 22 years old. It's also against the law.
It is 100% was against the law, but I really do think that the faith pushes that because our frontal lobe has not been developed yet till we're 25. In men, I believe it's 25 years old. So that's like their window to do what they want to do with us. And that is why I really believe that they push that because our frontal lobe isn't developed. They're still pulling the strings that need to be pulled. And once you're in, you're in. Most of them will live and die in this faith. Just a handful of us get away.
How long had you dated this missionary then? Do you also count that entire year of having phone conversations with him on his mission? Do you count that as dating, or was it not until he returned home or returned to you after his mission?
Not until he returned home. To be honest, I mean, I kept him kind of on the back burner as an option. I did have a boyfriend at the time as well that I was kind of seeing, but I never really committed to the one boyfriend because, again, I was only 16, 17 years old. So when my first husband came home, I dropped the other one and we started dating immediately. And I got pregnant literally the weekend he got home or came back to me, I should say. And yeah, we were married about 2-3 months later because we didn't want, like, what will they say that I'm pregnant? So this entire time we had just lied to everybody. We went quickly, got a civil marriage done, and I was pregnant, and everyone just to this day thought my daughter was a premature baby who was born at 7 months, which is not true. I had already been pregnant.
Well, did you carry any sort of guilt with you about getting married in the temple unworthily?
Absolutely. But that was the requirement. It was very important for him to not let society know that he was a failed missionary. So I went along with it. We never repented for fornicating. We got married. We got sealed in the temple a year later at the Salt Lake City Temple. And that was that. Like, it was just kind of buried, and I carried that with me for a decade.
Well, did they question why you had a civil marriage instead of a temple marriage at first?
No, they never questioned that. They just went along with the flow because my husband, who was a returned missionary, was given all the green flags, at least at his facade.
So you're a minor at this point. How does that work? How is he able to marry a minor? Is there any sort of legal action that has to take place?
So at the time, it was 2004. And in the state of Utah, as long as one of your legal parents, like your guardian, signs off, you could actually, at that time, could be 14 years old in the state of Utah. As long as a parent would sign, you can go get married to whoever you'd like. So they have since changed that. I believe now it's 16. Big diff. But so I had a parent sign me over to my husband. And my husband then became my guardian because I was a senior in high school. And because I was pregnant, school found out, and I had to leave the public education system and go get a GED. And my husband was my guardian and had to sign all the paperwork for me to get my GED done.
So how did that affect the level of control that you felt like he had over you as your spouse?
Honestly, it took a lot of my dignity away. I'm a very strong woman. I'm a very independent, well-spoken, blunt human being. I see myself now and I look back to 17-year-old Jen, and I am flabbergasted, to be honest, because it's not who I was. My voice was taken away from me. And not that my first husband was like this evil human being. I don't want that to I don't want to display him in that sort of sense at all. It's what we're bred to know, to do.
But you did say he hit you.
Oh yeah, he did. That in turn did qualify for the evil category.
Okay. let's just be full transparent here. So,
Yeah.
do you want to expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, so I had my newborn my daughter. I was so by the time I had her, things were okay. I was unhappy. My voice had been taken away, and he had a move which he used. He would wear a ring, a pretty hefty ring, and he would flip it around so the heavy part was on the bottom, and he'd bonk me on the head to where I'm collapsing on the floor. That was if I misspoke. That's if I got mouthy. That's if I didn't agree.
I don't even know how to process that.
Yeah, that was a lot. My return missionary was now hitting me until I was on the ground. And a few of those times I had my newborn in my arms. Like that was my baby with me. Um, so luckily I was able to get out of that marriage after a couple years. And that was that. Never looked back. And he has not been a part of mine or my daughter's life for over a decade.
Well, you were still a teenager. Do you feel as though you were even cognitively ready for marriage, let alone having to manage physical abuse?
None of the above. Again, it loops back to the frontal lobe. It's not developed. And here I am becoming a mother, a wife, and a victim of domestic violence all in one day. And that is hard.
How long were you married before he hit you for the first time?
About a year.
Do you feel as though you were groomed while he was on his mission?
100%. The other boyfriend that I had mentioned, he had actually spoken to him while my first husband was still on his mission. I went on a cruise with my family, and he told my boyfriend, "Oh, if you would have played your cards right, you could have gone on that cruise with her. I guess I'll have to play my cards right." And when my boyfriend at the time told me that, I didn't want to believe him. I just thought he was jealous or something. But full circle, absolutely that was true, and I was being groomed.
Do you feel as though it is by chance that after a year that you were married, that's also when you went through the temple and were sealed to him? Do you think that that is by chance that that's also when the physical abuse started?
Yes, because when you're sealed to them, I'm his property.
Because before, when you were a minor, you were signed over to him. He was your guardian. So not only was he your husband, he's in charge of you. He signs for everything. You couldn't even get your GED or do anything legally without your husband signing for you.
Correct.
Now you're sealed in the temple, and you can't even get to heaven without him. He has even more control over you. And this has been an entire 2 years essentially of this grooming process, because it's a year of him being on his mission and then a year of you being married. And now you are being physically abused.
Absolutely. And luckily, with this marriage, I was able to just move back in with my mom. So I was able to get away.
Escape, really.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Escape.
Do you feel as though if you would have stayed, because you did stay for a very long time, a year is a very long time to experience abuse and to stay. Do you feel like you would have stayed as long if there wasn't that shame on getting divorced within the church?
Well, that's what made it so hard, is I knew I was going to ruffle some feathers, and I did. Lots of people said, "How could you leave him? He's the return missionary. It's him. Like, how?" A lot of people stopped talking to me over that. It was hard. So that shame is what took me that extra year of dealing with that.
Also, when you went through to receive your endowments, can you share that story as well of what happened in the temple?
getting the endowments is scary. And now I want to preface with, at the time, I had my Mormon goggles on. So I'm walking into this positive, happy. This is what we need to do. I'm about to get all the secret passwords to be able to have God love me, right?
Yeah.
When I got my initiatory done, I don't know if they still do it the same way, but I was completely naked under a white cloth. And a couple of the portions of the special ordinance that they tell you is my breasts are made to feed children and my loins are to make more babies. So when I got the first part of that blessing, I had a woman have her fingertips on my nipple.
And that's not okay. That is not what's supposed to
No,
happen.
no. And I'm 18 at this point. So I'm barely over the threshold of becoming an adult. And at the loin part, her fingertips, those same fingertips, were on my pubic bone. And I'm naked under a tablecloth. And then I was able to put my garments on because I had passed that, level of understanding or whatnot. And I remember sitting in the locker putting those garments on, and the temple worker standing outside the locker in case I needed any assistance or anything. I was sitting there in the locker, and I was just taken back, confused, like, what just happened to me here? Then I head to the session for the culmination of it all. And I'm putting all these, in my mind, magical, worthy pieces of clothing that make me good enough for God to love me and accept me into heaven. And I'll never forget, at the end of that session, when we're praying, I couldn't even close my eyes, Mel. Like, I was just like looking around, and I'm like, what is this? I couldn't fathom the concept of what was happening.
At what point did you realize that you were basically molested?
When I started telling a couple people, I told them, hey, did this happen to you?
Who did you tell?
Some fellow ladies at the Relief Society.
And their response?
Well, one lady said I was insane. Like, she didn't even want to hear what I had to say. She goes, "Oh, stop," in Spanish, of course. So first red flag. Then I went to a couple gals who were more like my age, 19, who were also married in the temple. And I asked them, hey, when you got your initiatory done, how did this happen? And they said, no. I was like, oh, okay, neat. So I was absolutely molested in there by some woman who was like 75 years old.
I don't remember exactly where they touched me, but I do remember it being on the chest, but I feel like it was higher on my collarbone, if that makes sense.
That's what everyone else told me as well. That was not my experience.
You are naked. You are underneath of this sheet that is open. I believe it was open on the sides. Maybe and then they reach in and touch you on those certain spots on your body. But I believe I was touched on the front of my thigh. I was not touched anywhere near my pubic area.
See, and I've heard others say that they got touched right below their belly button, kind of like where your uterus is, kind of an area, which already is weird. But yeah, no, mine was nipple and pubic bone, 100%.
Did you ever tell your husband?
Honestly, no, I don't think I did. I rarely even communicated to that man because at this point I already was so unhappy that I was just kind of going through the motions because I knew this was right. This is where I needed to be. It's the formula that the church gave me.
Did you ever go to leadership about the physical abuse or talk to any leadership about the sexual abuse that happened in the temple?
Not about the sexual abuse, but I did about the physical abuse. And again, Latino culture, unfortunately, not for everyone, but for a lot of men, their response was, what did I do to provoke him?
I don't think that that is just exclusive to the Latino culture. Unfortunately, I think that is exclusive to the Mormon Church.
Oof, that's hard. That is hard.
I've experienced that personally, and I know so many other friends that have also experienced the same thing. I'm not saying that maybe in the Latino culture it might be even worse.
It might be, I don't know, but if it is also, if you've experienced it along with some friends, then I mean, it wouldn't be far-fetched. I think it is. Us women take blame, a lot of blame.
Yeah, it's blame shifting. It really is. That's what it is. I mean, you are 19 years old. You have been like, you're married and you're a mom during a time when you should be going to school dances. You should be planning graduation and partying with your friends and going on senior trips, doing all of those fun things. And you got robbed of all of those things at the same time. Then you're also being physically and sexually abused. You are going to leadership. You are explaining what is happening to you. You're not being heard. And you are being blamed for all of this trauma that you are experiencing. What was it that finally made you leave the marriage?
So when you say that my childhood, like my teen years got taken away from me, they got ripped away from me. I was a cheerleader, a 4.0 student. There was no reason for me to have needed a GED. I was a great athlete and student, and getting that ripped away from me to fit that formula and mold, I think what did it for me was that trauma started accumulating resentment and hate. And when the abuse started, it was just a matter of me getting my ducks in a row. I got to get my enough money. I got to get enough. Like, I would take one bag out at a time and go leave it at my mom's house. Um, so really that's all it was. And when I was ready to just grab that final bag and go, I was out. The abuse was a cherry on top of me getting my entire teenage, successful, fun years ripped away from me because I was being groomed by him and the church.
So you finally get divorced. You escape this marriage. You're living with your mom. Then how much longer in between that first marriage that you met your second husband?
So I had already known him through my first husband. We were all just friends and family, like friends of family, and we started dating fairly soon after. He was an active member as well, and we started sleeping together again. The fornicating began. So that shame of, uh-oh, we're not following, the chastity expectations. We got married quickly, and we started the repentance process a couple years into our marriage.
You never really got a chance to live on your own.
Never. I have not lived on my own. 4 marriages in, I have not been single for long at all.
Where do you think that that pressure comes from? That pressure from, you went immediately from your mom's house to getting married, your husband's house, getting a divorce, going back to your mom's house. And then
For a
really
couple months.
it sounds like very quickly afterwards, you were then felt pressured to rush back into another marriage.
Oh, absolutely. You can't be single here for long. In fact, I had, excuse me, I had a bishop say, you need to get married. Don't wait. Don't tempt the devil. You need to just get married so that the natural human sensations and urges to be sexually intimate, you must ignore them. But if you're married, then it's okay. So yeah, absolutely. The pressure came from my leaderships.
Yeah, I remember that. I was at BYU, Idaho, and there is weekly devotionals, and you are told over and over again, almost like brainwashing, really, in a way, where are told that you need to get married. You need to not be selfish, not worry about yourself, not worry about the perfect timing, don't worry about finances, don't worry about getting school done. You need to get married. That is the ultimate goal. And your bullseye, once you start dating somebody, that bullseye basically for the adversary, it ends up getting bigger and bigger. And the reason for that is because obviously you're going to fall into temptation and sin. And so there is that pressure of that purity culture and not sinning, where you feel like you have to get married or you will sin. And it sounds as though almost all of us, like, we've all done something sexually with our future spouse right before we end up getting married. It
Oh
just is the way it
yeah.
is.
Oh yeah, are you kidding me? They have nicknames for it out here at BYU where they're soaking and like that's a whole other thing because if you only put it in and you don't thrust, it's not considered sex. Like that's a real thing. Soaking is a real thing out here. And the real friends will get under the bed and shake the bed so that they're not actually like, that is so sick and wild. Like that is, guys, just have sex. Like it's okay. Like it's
It's okay.
crazy. Yeah. And you
It
know,
really it shouldn't be shame. It really should not be shamed. It's a normal thing. I have kids. I've had to adjust my way of thinking, right? Because I was teaching my kids no sex until marriage, no sex until marriage. Even though I didn't do that, even though my husband didn't do that, I'm still teaching them this. And now, my son has a girlfriend, and I am okay with them when they come to visit. He's almost 21. So when they come to visit, I let them share a bedroom.
yeah. Well, yeah, of course. And I have I have my two teenage kids and then my almost 21-year-old daughter. I, to me, that's ending generational trauma. Like, I feel so good about them not growing up in this faith and that faith because that shame that I had to carry, the the blame, the shame, the obligated rules that were pushed on me without me having a voice or a choice. Like I don't want that for my kids. I don't want them waiting till they're married. Oh my gosh, can you imagine all these poor women who get married? Like they wait till they get sealed in the temple and then the day of they find out their husband has a micro penis. Like, are you kidding me? Like that's tough. That is a hard life. Like there's no coming back from that. So I don't wish
Actually,
that
there's
on
no
anybody.
coming at all.
No, there isn't. Pun intended.
Seriously. Oh my God. Yeah, that's true. But also just thinking, like, are you sexually compatible? I mean,
Right.
and it's also
And
very hard when you're told, no, 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 don't do that. And then when you get married and now you have a green light, it's still really hard to even think that sex isn't a bad thing, even when you're married, because you've been told this your entire life. And so then, you're basically told that sex is only to procreate. And
right,
so you never really, I mean, I never really had any sort of fun sexually until
right.
after we left the Mormon church. And I'm like,
Yep.
oh, like,
And for me, like I don't want that for my kids. Like I have such an open dialogue relationship with my children. I always have. Sex was never a no topic. I have spoken to them about it openly, freely about sex, drugs, because I don't want them to feel shame for being sexually active either. I do teach them a principle like, don't go have sex with everybody just because you can. I teach them that there should be emotion behind it and respect and self respect and all the things.
we're not saying they need to be whores. We're just saying that it's okay if you are in a monogamous relationship and you are both consenting adults, it's okay to have sex with that person. You are not going to hell. I truly don't believe that. I just don't.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't think you should go around and sleep around with a bunch of people. That's also how you get diseases. Okay, so now you have met your second husband, and how long have you dated now before you end up jumping into this marriage?
A couple months, not very long, and quickly got married. I was still kind of pivoting between I don't want to be active again in the church and I do want to be active. It was important to my second husband. And so ultimately,
When you met him, was he active?
yes, he was.
Okay, so he was active and you were not. You were not
No,
wearing garments.
no. I took him off. I didn't want to, not because I was told yet, just because it was a personal choice. I just didn't like him. I didn't believe in him anymore. The rewiring began. Uh, So, 2 years into our 10-year marriage, we started the repentance process. I did it for the wrong reasons. I did it to appease my husband. Again, the formula that we're taught. And that did not go well for multiple reasons.
And why? What happened?
So, my second husband got a slap on the wrist. He was able to put his garments back on and keep being a temple recommend holder. Um, I was not. I was told
Wait, so
to
back
take
up.
them
So you
off.
said he was active when you guys got married, or he wasn't? Because he was active, he just wasn't wearing his garments.
Yeah, he took them off after we started dating because we had fornicated. He just didn't feel clean enough, worthy enough to keep them on. So when we went through our repentance process together, the bishop told him, "No, you're clean, you're good, you're worthy. Put them back on." However, Jen, you don't get to.
So how does that feel having a double standard? So basically, you guys both did the exact same thing, correct? You had sex together.
I was told that it must have been me who initiated it because I come off as a very sexual woman. First of all, how are you picking that up in this conversation? That to me seems like a personal opinion you just mathed up on your own. So
It's
that
because
means you're already.
it's because you're beautiful.
Oh, thank you. You're so sweet. Sorry,
No,
you
but
Mel.
that is the truth. You are very threatening because you are beautiful. And so since you are beautiful, then you must have been the perpetrator.
The issue. Yeah, absolutely. I was, and that's the perfect word for it, is that I was the perpetrator in the bishop's mind. And so he's good. Like my second husband was guilt free. He could be go back to the temple, and at the time, for mid 2000s, like we're talking like 2000, 8ish, he was making some pretty good money. And so I remember specifically the bishop saying, it's important for you to be the tithing payer in your home, to not lose the blessings because of the lack of Jen's ability to be a temple goer.
So it was all about the money.
Oh, yeah. And that's verbatim. I'm not just, you know, giving you, that's verbatim what the bishop said to us. Like, that was hard.
So do you feel like he got this free repentance coupon basically just because he was the tithing payer?
Absolutely. And I was told that I need to have a tribunal with the high councilman and the stake president. These are the top dogs of our building, right? The big dogs, as they say. And I had to go sit in this room with supposedly 10 plus men to in detail hear my fornicating like sin. I wasn't going to do that. Like, I was so uncomfortable with that. I actually no showed. I didn't even participate in that. A couple weeks later, I get a letter in the mail from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints saying, "Jenny, you have been excommunicated."
But you did have to sit in a room with the bishop and explain your fornication, or sorry, just the fact that you had sex with the man that you were going to marry. You had to explain that in
Yeah.
pornographic detail to this
Yes.
bishop in a closed room, in a soundproof room where no one could hear you. And you're still barely in your 20s at this point.
Right.
I still consider my 20-year-old a child. He is still a
Oh,
child.
yeah. Oh,
You are
yeah.
a child. You are sitting here having to explain to this bishop, you are beautiful, by the way, and he's calling you a threat
Right.
because of how gorgeous you are. You're the perpetrator. And
And not only did I have to do that once, Mel, that was only when I spoke to the bishop. Then I had to do it again in front of he and his counselors and the secretary, because the secretary's in there taking notes of what position and how many times. Like, this is like real life. One of the members of his bishopric literally got off sexually from hearing my stories, which then bled into him taking advantage of me, secluding me, having conversations, the manipulation, the grooming began. And that led into a sexual affair that he and I had for 2 years. And he was on the bishopric the entire time.
wow.
Yeah. So it does, this extended far, much farther than just me having to repent. This then turned into another man who's older than me grooming me again.
But this wasn't an affair. This is an abuse of power.
Absolutely.
He took advantage of you.
Yes, 100% took advantage of me and several other women in the ward, which I later found out. Do you want to know how I found out, Mel?
Yes, please tell us. I know the listeners want to know.
One of the gals that he was also sleeping with, um, invited me to have a foursome with he and the other gals that he was sexually active with. And boy, did I like halt so quick and say, no, thanks. Went to the stake president, told them I dropped names. I told them what I was asked to do, what had been happening, and how I got groomed. I was not believed. They said, we're sorry, that member of the bishopric said that never happened. So you need to repent for putting someone of his nature in a bad light and ask for forgiveness.
That is ridiculous to me. I mean, he was not counseling whatsoever. He was basically using his position of authority as a hunting ground for women. He was grooming these women to take advantage of, to have threesomes, have these orgies. And he now has this one of his victims coming to you and inviting you into an orgy.
Yeah. And the way she said it, it wasn't like this luring, oh, we should do this because it's fun. No, it was actually, we should do this because it would make him happy. Like, think about that statement. That's deep. Like, that is like Stockholm syndrome, if you ask me.
Well, I do feel as though that us as women, that do we want to make these men of authority happy. And truly the reason is because we are, like the therapist that was on in the last episode, she said women will join the side of the oppressor, and then they will then also take on those exact same roles in order to
Mm-hmm.
make this man of authority happy.
Yeah,
It's a survival
absolutely.
tool.
It is 100%. It's wild. It is. It's disgusting.
But if these worthiness interviews didn't take place, do you feel as though you ever would have been in that position?
No, I really don't, because how would I mean, essentially a man, if they're already perverse, are going to have the thoughts and inclinations to do whatever inappropriate thing they're going to do with women. So I can't guarantee that this specific man wouldn't have. I think it's in his nature to be a predator for sure. Um, but he got easy access to me when I'm in there as vulnerable as I was, with guilt and shame of fornicating, that he saw that as easy access to get to me exactly how he knew he could.
I can't even imagine the amount of women, and I'm sure he's still doing it.
Oh, yeah. And he's still a temple goer for sure.
But you can't go to the temple and you get excommunicated because you had sex with your husband before you were married. He gets off scot-free. He's, as a man, is able to go to the temple. And same with this man. They don't believe you because you must be making it up, even though you gave names where they could go and they could interview these other women. And I'm sure that they would also confess, because truly that's how we're groomed, is to admit our sins, confess our sins to these authority people, these
Mm-hmm.
authority,
Yeah.
these men in authority.
Right.
I just don't understand it. I just don't understand these worthiness interviews and why they need to take place. I don't understand also like why it happens, where it's just a one-on-one with a man and a woman, even a man and a man. It just,
Even a man and a child. I mean, we have, like, let me make this really clear. Like, my current husband, Josh, his family is very active. One of his siblings is a bishop. Like, there are still men actively interviewing 11-year-olds who are about to go to the temple for the first time, male or female, and asking them if there's any sexual sin in their life. Like, I'm sorry, like, that is beyond inappropriate. Like, if some male asked my 11-year-old child if they're being sexual and masturbating or thinking or doing of any kind of, like, that in my mind is illegal. It should be.
they're also asking these soon to be 8-year-olds. So these kids are 7 years old and they are also being asked if there is any skin to skin contact, and then asking if they know what that means, and then being explained in detail what masturbation is. That is not something that a 7-year-old should have any sort of conversation about. It's not okay.
No, the thought of it is repulsive,
And
to
this is
be honest.
happening behind closed doors where they are not able to be protected by their parents. And these bishops, these counselors, they have absolutely zero training on even how to speak to children. They have no business counseling or trying to, even when somebody does sin, they have no experience on how to help people through marriage problems, help people through sin. They have absolutely no experience whatsoever, no training.
You know what? It actually takes me back to the biblical story when Jesus said, he without sin cast the first stone. No one was throwing stones because we all have sin. So whatever degree that is, that's between you and the Lord. But at the same time, none of us can cast stones, let alone counsel, guide, judge a child, a woman, a male of any age. They just can't. Like, where do they get off thinking that they have the authority of God when they're probably doing some horrible things on their own time? Doesn't make sense. Like, make the math to me, because it doesn't.
It doesn't make sense whatsoever. It really doesn't. So, do you tell your husband, your second husband, about what had happened between you and the second counselor?
Yeah, I do. I tell him, and to my surprise, now mind you, he's in his garments. He's still going to the temple weekly. I had a best friend at the time who was also in garments and married to her husband. She was at my house all the time, loved her. We were so close. So, to my surprise, when I came forward to my second husband about the sexual transgression, if you will, of what was going on, he started holding, my best friend's hand and said, "Well, actually, I want to tell you that I'm in love with her and we're going to get married, so I want a divorce." Oh, okay. So this whole time I'm carrying this shame and guilt, even though I'm being groomed and manipulated to be taken advantage of sexually. I come forward to my temple worthy husband, but he had already had an affair with my best friend, both temple goers. Luckily, the divorce was amicable. We both were like, okay, well, guess this didn't work out. He and I had a child together. And so we didn't fight over custody. It was just very clean, cut, quick, clean, done. They didn't end up together. I really don't know why. I don't know the details of that. So it was still a big portion of the demise of our marriage. So, yeah, again, the injustice of it all. Nothing ever happened to them. They are both living their own lives with new partners and both temple goers,
So nothing happened to him. He was never excommunicated.
No, I think eventually he ended up leaving, but never like removing his name off the church records or anything. I think it just kind of dissipated for him eventually. But I do know that my best friend is still going to the temple. Like, I have nothing to do with her, obviously, but yeah, nothing happened to her. So I honestly don't think she ever said anything. So,
Wow.
like, I don't even think her current husband knows.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, so she never confessed.
Oh, I highly doubt it.
Because if she did, her as a woman, she would have been reprimanded.
Oh, for sure. To the highest extent, like I was.
Yeah. So once again, so you're leaving this marriage. I want to be very clear that you did not do anything wrong. Like, I think about, you call it an affair. That was not an affair. That was an abuse of power. He took advantage of you. You were groomed, you were manipulated, and you were taken advantage of. You were put into a terrible situation that you should have never been put in. And you still are the one that is on the chopping block. Your husband, him having an affair, that was wrong. He was not manipulated. He was not taken advantage of. You are part of a system that controls women, that women do what these men, and especially men in authority, tell them to do.
Well, thank you for saying that.
I want you to know that.
Right.
And I want, like, I hope you already know that, but I want you to, like, I want you to hear that from somebody else other than yourself.
Thank you. It actually means a lot. Because my therapist has said the same thing. um, so yeah, and you both are right. It was complete grooming and manipulation, and I completely got taken advantage of. The rewiring of that still takes time for me, even though I've been gone for years now. But it some of it still sticks with you, unfortunately. So, but you're absolutely right. Thank you.
No, stop calling it an affair. You did not have an affair.
Thank you. I will. Done.
How old were you at this point? During this time?
So I'm about 30 at this point. I was married to my second husband for about 10 years. So that wrapped up when I was about 30 years old. I had a buddy of mine who we grew up together, which in a few weeks, again, became my third husband.
You have not been single, I don't even think,
A month, like a month or two tops. Like I was not single, and I
So
couldn't be
again,
the
you're feeling
shame.
that pressure to have to get
Oh yeah,
married.
the whole time feeling the pressure. I mean, I was like from husband to husband to husband to husband. Like it just, even now with Josh, like it just was an immediate thing because of the legalism of the LDS faith. And my third husband, he wasn't active. He and I weren't even active as a couple together. But he was, however, sealed to the mother of his children. And from day one had told me that that was important to him. He never wanted to break that ceiling. He knew that it was true. He just didn't want to be active. Um,
Even though his wife that he was sealed to, she completely left the church as well, right? She had a
no, this was
no.
that. Yeah, that's Josh's
Oh,
ex-wife. Yeah, yeah. So my third husband, he was sealed to his then wife. They had 4 kids together, and that marriage was important to him, that temple marriage. So he let me know from the beginning, which really should have been my first massive red flag. Just FYI, if you ever wanted to go back to the church, fine, whatever, but I'm never going to get sealed to you because I want to keep that sealing with her. So he very much knew in his heart that that faith was true. So that like he grew up in the church. He and I were friends since back in LA. Like our moms were friends. They were part of that big group of Spanish ward that came to Zion, the dream to come to Salt Lake City. So we grew up together in the church, primary youth program. Like we did it all together, girls camp, boys camp, the combined, like we did it all. Um, so that his sealing to his wife was very important. So when we got married, we just weren't active. Um, he was a very conniving boyfriend. His facade was kind, loving, caring. A week after we got married, a week, 7 days, was the first time he hit me.
and did you feel as though it was your fault because you had been told prior that it was something that you did to provoke your husband?
Yes, I felt like I always provoked it. It actually took a couple years of therapy to rewire that thinking. Um, Everything that I said or did irritated him. I got beat for 4 years in horrific ways that I would never wish even on a worst enemy. Like it's just, I'm actually a miracle that I'm alive and talking to you here today. I mean, he's put a gun up to my head. I've, you know, been passed out so many times and beat, and he would always tell me I just was never good enough for him. And whatever that meant came from that same formula of the church because he would remind me I wasn't good enough to ever be worthy to be sealed to him. Like that's where it stemmed from.
Well, what keeps coming up for me too is just that even though that he was not active, he still has that foundation of feeling like he needs to have control over his wife. And so you are a very outspoken individual. You have a strong personality. So is that his way of trying to control you?
Oh yes, because that part of who I am was silenced for 4 years. I was to be obedient, um, quiet, submissive. I mean, he'd even use some doctrine about being the submissive wife. You know, not interpreted correctly at all, but anyhow.
So
And
even
but
though
I
he
had to do
wasn't
that.
going to church, he was still going to use the church doctrine to manipulate you into controlling you.
Here's the crazy part. The last incident that he and I had, I remember the warm blood dripping down my face. And I was going
And that's
in
where
and
we'll
out
hit the
of,
pause
like,
button on this wild ride for today, Blamers. But don't worry, we're not leaving you hanging like a bishop's unfulfilled promise. This is just part 1 of Jen's epic journey. Tune in next week for part 2, where the tea gets even hotter, the receipts drop harder, and we keep blaming it on, well, you know who. If you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that follow button on Blame It On Mel so you don't miss a single unfiltered truth bomb. Share this with your fellow blamers, rate us 5 stars, and let's keep the conversation going in the comments. Until next week, stay skeptical, stay strong. This is Mel signing off. Peace out, blamers.